Andrew, we're so excited you are here with us tonight. And you have certainly wowed people in the past at our past Three Tomatoes events. We've had you at least, I think, two events.
Yeah.
And that was when we had live in-person events. Remember what those were like, everyone? That was like in the olden days. We actually had, real people came in to events. But Andrew is also a contributor to the Three Tomatoes, and you'll find some of his fabulous articles at our website. So let me tell you a little bit about Andrew. He has been dubbed the most organized man in America, and believe me, he is. He's also one of the pioneers of professional organizing. He travels the world speaking and teaching. He was actually supposed to be traveling the world this year. He can tell you about that, like everyone else. His plans have been changed too. In teaching, he's worked with corporate clients, including the New York Mets, Genentech, American Express, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That had to have been quite an organizational job.
Yeah, that was
And
a
he
great
also
day.
works with individuals like us to help us unstuff our lives, which is also the title of his best-selling book, which really I encourage all of you to get the book. It's a great, great book. So, Andrew, yeah, oh, the book, yay! I don't have it on my bookshelf, but it's a fabulous book. Really love it. So, Andrew, I want you to talk a little bit about your philosophy of unstuffing our lives, because your idea of organizing isn't organizing in the way we think of a lot of other people who organize, because you are so much more than that. And it's so far beyond having a tidy, neat closet. So tell us about your philosophy around this unstuffing your life.
Sure. And I'll just say thanks again for having me. It's great to be with all of you. And I'm my favorite part of this. I'm excited. This conversation we're going to have. My favorite part is always when we get to the Q&A and you can ask me questions. So as things come up, if you've got a piece of paper next to your cocktail or your glass of wine, just scribble down any notes that you have so that when we get to the Q&A, you can ask the questions that come up either that you had before we got on this call or that come up during the call. So when we think about organization, of course, there's the surface tidiness, which often becomes a goal. I talk often when I'm teaching about getting organized is relatively easy. With a pot of coffee or a couple of Diet Cokes or a can of Jolt, you could probably get yourself organized in a couple of days. Staying organized is really where the problem is. And that is, it comes back to the organizational triangle, which those of you who have seen me before know the organizational triangle. So we'll just repeat that, right? One home for everything, like with like, something in, something out. Do that one more time. One home for everything, like with like, something in, something out. One home for everything means everything has one home and only one home. And doesn't matter where that home is. Where Cheryl keeps her keys can be different from where I keep my keys, can be different from where Randy keeps her keys. But Randy's keys have a home, Cheryl's keys have a home, my keys have a home. They're only ever going to be one of two places, in their home or in our hand unlocking something. You apply that rule, you'll find anything in 30 seconds or less. Like with like means all like objects live together, not most of them, but all of them. And what often happens is we let ourselves off the hook. We are not diligent and consistent. It's not really about discipline, so it's not like a muscly down, like, I'm going to get organized, I'm going to stay organized. It's just not letting yourself off the hook on a daily basis, so that when you go to throw something on your kitchen counter or drop something on the floor next to the sofa and just keep walking, telling yourself one of your 200 lies that I'll get back to that later, that you just interrupt yourself and say, there is no later. I mean, it's now or never. So instead of putting my bag here, how about if I put my bag where it goes? Instead of dropping my keys here, how about if I put them on the hook, or if I put them in the bowl, or wherever the home for the keys is? Instead of just dropping the mail on the dining room table or at the kitchen counter, how about if I put the mail where the mail lives? You're gonna spend the time on the front end or on the back end, and it will always cost you more on the back end. So it's just like buying something on sale. You know, when you can take advantage of the sale if you purchase it then. If you purchase it on time and then you miss a payment, suddenly you have to pay all that back interest. So it's the same thing when you set your keys down and you believe it when you say to yourself, I will put this away later. There is no later. The mail will end up on top of your keys. The New York Times will end up on top of your keys. Something will obscure it, and then you'll spend 15 minutes running around your house looking for your keys, and you'll say, I'll never do that again. And then tomorrow you'll do it again, unless you encourage yourself in the moment to push through that story, that uncomfortability. And so all of this is about the surface, but the reality is we have a limited amount of time here. And what do we want to spend it doing? Do we want to spend it moving crap around from room to room, even if it's really beautiful crap? It's still just stuff. And, you know, I mean, they can bury you with it, but you can't take it with you. So what do you want to spend your time doing? Because when this experience is over, it would be a shame if your last 15 minutes were, you know, scrambling to find your living will or the deed to your house, instead of spending it either eating an ice cream cone or walking in a meadow or visiting with people that you love. And so that's when we think about a philosophy, that's what's driving me, is that all of these things, again, whether we buy them at Neiman Marcus, we buy them at Target, it doesn't matter where they came from. They're either increasing the quality of our life or they're an obstacle to our happiness. And that's where I like to align people and get them thinking, so that you're making conscious, deliberate choices about how you're spending your time, and you're not deluding yourself into thinking that this is an infinite experience and that tomorrow you'll have more time than you have today to clean up the mess that you made today, because then tomorrow has its own disorganization just as a part of the day. You have to get up, you have to take a shower, get dressed, do all the things that you did today, but you don't want to have to pay for today tomorrow. It'd be better to just pay for today during today, and then tomorrow's a clean slate. So that, Cheryl, is really, you know, that's what's, if there's a philosophy, I think that's what it is. Let's be present. Let's not waste our time. Let's be mindful of the choices we're making. There's no value judgments about the choices. You want to play bridge all day and, you know, drink wine. I'm not going to judge you, like, because you're not curing cancer. And if you want to cure cancer all day, I'm not going to judge you like, oh, you don't know how to have fun, right? You can spend it's your time. You can spend it exactly as you want. I just want you to be deliberate about how you're spending it, rather than unconsciously spending it and then regretting the choices when you have a moment of awareness to go, crap, that's not how I wanted the day to go. You, at any moment, you can change that experience for yourself and make a different choice. And I want to keep people in the driver's seat. It's just too easy to go to sleep and abdicate your responsibility for creating the life you want.
Right. And that's what we love about you, Andrew, because it's not about how to fold your clothes a little smaller and smarter to make more room in your closet. It's really about what this all does for your life. It's not unstuffing your things, it's unstuffing your life. And that's a huge concept. And I love your organizational triangle is such a simple tool to remember. And you introduced us, many of us, to that when we did one of our renewal summits a couple of years ago. And my husband was there, and I have days when I kind of regret he was, because every time I bring something new in the house, he's like, something in, something new in, something out. So that's now the mantra in our house. So that lives on here. So the last few months have really been challenging for all of us. And there's certainly been a lot of closet and garage cleaning, because I think that was a way for people feeling they had something they could control in their lives during this difficult time. And but beyond that, have you seen any key challenges that have been related to facing people related to stuff around the pandemic? Have you seen things that have popped up?
Well, sure. I mean, I've been doing a lot of writing because I do, as you pointed out, right, I sit between a corporate world and a residential world, and I have feet in both of those worlds. And so I've been writing a lot on the corporate or the professional side about people working from home, working remotely, who were used to going to an office. So that's for me, I've worked remotely for most of my professional life as an organizer. When I was working in the theater, I went to a building. But in the last 24 years that I've been doing this work as a professional organizer, I've worked from home if I'm not on site with a client. So the transition for me, the isolation has been challenging. Even as an introvert, I have wanted to occasionally be around people, and it's been
Right.
frustrating to not be around them or to have to navigate, masks and social distancing. But for folks who are not used to being at home all day, it's really created some challenges for them. And then if they have children or if they have grandchildren, even if they have animals and they're used to having somebody walk the dog, and now, maybe the dog walker could still come, but maybe the dog walker doesn't come. And so the compression of being in one's home has certainly, just like traveling with a partner or a spouse or even your kids or your parents, right? Everything becomes amplified because you're just on top of each other all the time. Whereas when there's space around it, it's much easier to be forgiving of people's quirks and flaws. There's context
Right.
for that, right? But when you're right up against them, you're like, oh my God, if you chew one more time with your mouth open, I'm going to smack you in the head. I'm going to eat in my bedroom. So it's accelerated all of that, and you're exactly right, I think. And one of the things that I want to talk about tonight when we talk about just the holidays themselves, this desire, when things are so uncertain, it's only, I believe, human nature to try to create some stability, and try to control the things that you can. And we just have to be mindful of when we do that, are we doing it at the expense of others, right? If we're conscious of the impact of our own need for stability and how that might bump into somebody else's need for stability when the floor is literally shaking, right? And there's nothing that you can really hold on to. It feels like everything is topsy-turvy. It requires even more attention and more compassion and kindness and open-heartedness to interact with each other, instead of like, I don't have the bandwidth, I just have to take care of myself, you'll have to take care of yourself and just leave me alone. So there's been I think a lot of challenges for folks to try to navigate that. And we do it sometimes more gracefully, sometimes more clumsily. What I would suggest, my own experience is to pay attention as much as possible. And if you feel you're getting overwhelmed, to recognize it. It's for anybody who has a meditation practice or who has meditated at all, and you understand one of the basic tenets of meditation when you're focusing on your breath, and then you stop focusing on your breath and you start to think about your shopping list or an errand you have to run. You just return to your breath. It's the same sort of an internal practice of, if you find yourself at the end of your rope, at the end of your tolerance limit, if you can recognize that relatively soon and say, I'm getting cranky, I'm getting prickly, something's up. And if you can stay in conversation with that with yourself, instead of just succumbing to it and just riding the emotional wave, you have a greater chance of minimizing the impact and also just being happier. So if you can excuse yourself and say, time out, right? I've reached a limit and I don't want to say anything that I don't really mean just because I'm feeling defensive. So let's just take 10 minutes and we'll circle back to this conversation. And that can happen. I live alone, and it can happen. I do it with myself. I do actually talk to myself, but I will sometimes say, let's just go do something else, right? Let's go load the dishwasher. I'm tired of trying to edit this document. I feel like I'm fighting now, and that doesn't feel good. So instead of putting my head down and like, I'm just going to plow through this, it's okay to say, I think I'm going to take 15 minutes. I'm going to go sit on the balcony. I have a cup of tea, or I'm going to go load the dishwasher. I'm going to go, do something else, and then I'll come back. I'll take a walk around the building, and then I'll come back and do something else. And it typically works to reset my frame of mind so I can approach something without all that baggage and junk.
Yeah,
that
and I
clutter.
know we're all feeling that way. I mean, that's really great advice. So, like all of us, I know that you've had to pivot your business. We certainly have at the Three Tomatoes. And one of the things I love that you've been doing a whole series of online challenges, and you have one that starts in January, and there are
Yes.
3 people. So before we get started with your presentation, just tell them about that. And we'll also be publicizing that at the Three Tomatoes, but tell them what this challenge is about.
Sure. So we do a de-stress your mess challenge, and again, this was amazingly successful, partly because of COVID, because people were at home. So we did 2 of them in 2020. I can't believe it's the end of the year. We did 2 of them in 2020.
Thank goodness it's the end of this year.
Yeah. Well, yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm about done with 2020. So yes. But so on January the 11th, we do it for 5 nights. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour long. It's a free de-stress your mess challenge. Every night we deal with a different clutter hotspot. So we look at clothes and closets. We look at papers. We look at sentimental objects. We look at kitchens. We look at the 3 secrets that are keeping you stuck and unable to stay organized. And as Cheryl said, it's absolutely free. You can sign up on my website. Cheryl will share the link with you later, but it's andrewmellen.com/stress-mess-challenge. And so you can sign up there. When we did it in the 2 that we've done in 2020, we had over 1,500 people sign up for one of them, and over 2,100 people sign up for the other one.
Wow.
And in 2021, since we're talking about just the pivoting inside the business, it's the first year that we're actually going to do any advertising. We'll do some Facebook advertising, and our goal is to get over 5,000 people to sign up for the free challenge.
Well, that'll be great. And we'll be promoting it at the Three Tomatoes because I think it's such a great way to start off 2021 for sure.
Thanks.
So I want to get into the topic of this evening because here we are actually in the holiday season, people. Hard to believe. It's hard to believe because it looks very different to most of us. A lot of us are going to be spending the holiday season on Zoom with family or friends. A lot of people on this call actually live alone and they're not going to be seeing anyone right now. So your topic is so important to on so many levels because it's all about reimagining the holidays. And I now get to go on mute and drink my wine, and I'll turn this over to you.
Great. Thanks, Cheryl. So yes, this is an unusual time for us all. And so my first question to you all, to us, is really, what do you want the holidays to look like? And there's a tether back to what we were just talking about, where if one of your ways of doing the holidays or participating in the holidays historically has been through shopping and gift giving, I'm going to not challenge you, because there's no aggression there, but just to prompt some inquiry for you to think about if that's the way that you provide for yourself some sense of stabilization and familiarity in an uncertain, awkward, weird time. I'm going to ask you to really think about how that experience will be for the recipients of the gifts, right? And that we don't just put our heads down and say, well, it doesn't really matter. This is what I want to do for me. That kind of what I would say presents, or we might call self-care, I think it poses an opportunity to listen to perhaps a little self-centeredness and a little selfishness. If you think about kids, grandkids, or friends, whoever it might be that you're going to celebrate with from a distance, if they receive things that they don't need, or don't want, particularly this year, it's going to complicate their lives on the other side of the holidays. So there are plenty of ways for us to demonstrate our love and affection for the people that we care about during the holidays that don't necessarily involve shopping and actually mailing gifts. I'm not saying don't do it, but I am saying if you are going to do it, to be mindful about the impact that that's going to have on the other people. Because if there are things that are not the right size or need to be returned or exchanged, we're complicating their lives, right? We had the good feeling of giving something, but now we've actually complicated the people we love's lives. And if we're conscious about that, that can't be the end result of what we wanted our gift to be, was a complication. We wanted it to enhance the quality of their life, not detract from it. So I really encourage everybody to take a few minutes. And I mean, we could take just a minute now, or maybe even 30 seconds to just close our eyes and think about, what's a good outcome for this holiday? What would we like this holiday to look like? And then you can do part 2 of this after this gathering. You can set a timer for 2 or 3 minutes and just, like you would with any other vision board or imagination exercise, imagine, given the circumstances, what's a great outcome for the holidays, instead of, and this is kind of it's not even a kind of, it's a glass half empty, glass half full experience, right? You could focus on, well, the whole litany of the holidays suck. I hate not being around my family. This is lousy. This is lousy. And that's an easy list to make. I mean, everybody can make that list. It's a more meaningful list to, given the circumstances, how can we take a sow's ear and turn it into a silk purse, right? I mean, that is an exercise not only that does something nice for us, but also that ripples out among our circles of friends, family, acquaintances, our community. So I encourage us. So we'll take just 30 seconds and we can just imagine, what could this holiday look like for us if we were deliberate about navigating the chaos and the limitations instead of being a victim to those. And I'll watch the timer for 30 seconds. And that's 30 seconds. So that wasn't hard. And again, I would encourage us all to find a quiet time in the next couple of days and just set a timer for 2 or 3 minutes. It's not a lot of time, but it's enough time to actually get into our bodies and just imagine we have the ability. I mean, we are very, very lucky, right? I mean, we can talk about privilege, but I don't mean socioeconomic privilege. It's just the fact that we're not living in a cardboard box. We have a roof over our head. Nobody's hungry unless you're intermittent fasting. And you're not, I mean, all joking aside, Susan Meyer, I mean, we're not naked or not wearing clean clothes unless we chose to be. So we're very lucky, and we have this opportunity to create our own future. I mean, I believe everybody does, but for us, it's particularly easy to create our future. So instead of focusing on the things that are missing, we all know, I mean, we've been alive long enough to know that by focusing on gratitude, the quality of our lives improves, and so does everybody that's in our relationship with us. So it's an easy enough exercise, even though we're bombarded by so much information encouraging us to focus on what is broken, what isn't working, where the problems are. We don't really need to spend any more time doing that. It's all around us. So I encourage us to do that. And it gives us a chance to create a new set of traditions, even if we only do them this year, right? And that's it's another invitation. I won't call it a challenge. I'll call it an invitation, because who knows what the future will bring. And I'm not catastrophizing. We don't know. So instead of just like the first time we do anything, there's a learning curve, but I don't believe it to be wasted effort or energy. And so I encourage us all to step up to, I'm going to do something, even if this is the only time I'm going to need this particular arrangement of experiences or tools or whatever, that you don't get hung up on, well, it's a waste of my time because I'm never going to use it again, as opposed to, it's skills building. It's a way to get involved. I mean, instead of playing Sudoku or doing something else as a brain teaser, how about trying to figure out a way to navigate the holidays and be happy, joyous, and expansive instead of reactionary, frustrated, and a little curmudgeon-y, right? I mean, none of that is going to be wasted energy. It's going to keep our brains facile and flexible, and it exercises all of those problem-solving skills in a way that's actually useful for us. And when we're thinking about that, it comes back to conscious giving. And I have several blog posts that I'll share the links with Cheryl, so she can share them with all of you, where I dive deeper into this. But we'll talk a little bit about that. And just, I mean, in some ways, buying a gift is the easiest thing that you can do, even with social distancing, even if you're hundreds or thousands of miles away from the people you love at this time of the year. How can you give your time to them? What else can you share with them that would positively impact the quality of their life, that is, whether it's easy for you or a bit challenging for you, it's still something that you can do. So I'm gonna ask you to think about, instead of a purchased gift, how can you help them? And it could be something as easy as organizing a shopping trip from Instacart or Fresh Direct or any of those online places. It could be ordering a series of meals on Grubhub or Seamless or DoorDash or Bite Squad. I think it's called Bite Squad down here. What do they need? The people that we love, what do they need, and what can we give them that's going to make this crazy time of the year easier for them, that isn't ego focused for us. And by that, I mean that we don't need to be the star of the gift. Like, I gave this to you, as much as this is something I can do to increase the quality of your life because I love you. And that the giving, I mean, remember, God, I would say it's probably 15 years ago, that thing about, you remember there was that whole, the bumper stickers of doing things quietly, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It had a name of like giving gifts to people, or like, paying the toll for the person who's behind you, those kinds of things, but not drawing attention to the fact that you were the agent of it. And that if you got found out by doing it, it didn't count. You didn't get karma points for doing it. So it's a reinvigoration of that idea that we don't need the kudos for, like, I did this for you. Here's something that I can do for you, with you being the focus, rather than you being the focus, them being the focus. It's not exactly that, Elizabeth, paying it forward, but it is kind of, but there was like random acts of kindness. It was that random acts of kindness thing, that the idea was that you were supposed to be anonymous doing it. And so that's my invitation to all of us, is to really consider, if you like to bake cookies, you can still put them in the mail. You might not be able to deliver them, but you could do that. There's lots of ways that we can relieve the pressure and the stress in somebody else's life at this time. And so I would encourage us, even if it feels a little awkward or uncomfortable, to have the conversation, right? Because I mean, again, you have to have a certain amount of not exactly self-confidence or self-esteem, but a willingness to be vulnerable, to say, let's all acknowledge this is a shit time of the year. And I want to be helpful, and I want to be helpful in a way that matters to you, not that matters to me. So how can I help you? And just being willing to hear them say, actually, we don't need anything. We love you. Let's just get on Zoom. Or, oh my God, thank you. I've got a whole list of things that we would love some help with. Can I send that to you? Or actually, there's nothing for me, but a neighbor down the block is having this problems, and we're all doing something to support them. Would you be willing to participate in that? Right? I mean, the willingness to be vulnerable and ask the question and staying open to what you hear means anything can happen. And as I've discovered in my life, and I'm going to bet, I mean, what's most personal is most universal. So I'm going to bet that we've all had this experience, right? That whatever it is that I can think of, when I am open to collaboration, something better always happens. I would have sold myself short if I demanded that the things that I wanted to have happen were the best that could happen. Every time I've come into a relationship, whatever kind of relationship, or any sort of an exchange or that kind of a relationship, right? And said, I'm here, I'm present, no agenda, I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Whatever comes out of that has always been better than whatever I would have been projecting as I walked in the door, like, this is what I need to have happen from this experience. So I share that with you because I believe what is most personal is most universal, and that is not unique to me, and that we've all had those experiences, and we would call them magic or, synchronicity, or, there are no coincidences. We've all had some version of that. And so I invite us at this particular time of the year, again, when I'm getting a flash of the St. Francis prayer as well, right? Let me be available to love rather than to be loved. And that there's that sense of selfless giving. We're all pretty, I come back to the fact that we're all pretty comfortable, right? Even if we're a little miserable and isolated, nobody's unless you're physically in pain, in which case you need to go see the doctor. If you're not physically in pain, we're all pretty well off and pretty comfortable. So we don't really need to spend that much time focusing on our own personal comfort. And that idea of extending ourselves, I always feel better when I'm giving than when I'm receiving. I have an ego, and I like to be told, good job, Andrew. But being available and using my skills, my talents, my creativity to help other people solve problems that confound them. Basically, I mean, they're stuck because they can't figure out how to move past where they are. I feel like we all have this opportunity to bring all of ourselves to that experience, and imagine how we could transform this experience for ourselves and for each other. Just by showing up and being open-hearted. So, that's my holiday message. I'm going to share a few statistics with us just to go back to stuff. I'm going to share a few statistics with us, and then we'll button this up, right? So just in case going back to the glass half empty, glass half full, I want you to understand that it's pretty split. 46% of American adults describe the holiday season as joyous. 42% find the holidays nerve-wracking. So if you tend to run a little anxious or a little agitated, almost half of the country is in alignment with you. So you're not special, and you don't have to feel self-conscious or uncomfortable about it. Each year, over 1 billion Christmas cards are purchased. 83 square kilometers of wrapping paper, and 125,000 tons. So 125,000 tons of foam peanuts and plastic filler is used for packing, which equals, all of that equals 25 million tons, which is crazy math. 25 million tons of trash every year just from the holidays. So it's another thing to consider. I mean, I love a good present. I like wrapping paper. And at the same time, I'm also aware that there's people that are going to want to use this planet when I leave, and it shouldn't necessarily be a dump just for them, right? So for us to be thoughtful about what are the ways that we can recycle, reuse, repurpose, not necessarily giving them the ugly Yadro statue that you got 10 years ago for Christmas, but maybe. Or maybe you could just give that to Housing Works or some other charity and they could auction it off. But the idea of what is available so that the message comes through and a little less of the mess. And so that is really, that's my holiday wish for all of us. And as I said, I'll make a few links available to Cheryl where you can go and find more specific suggestions on like holiday gift giving. And now I'd love to hear from you all and any questions that you have.
Well, Andrew, I'm going to ask everyone to mute so we can all do applause because that was awesome.
That was amazing.
Really...
Honestly, it was just great, especially for people like me that has no organization at all.
That was really terrific, Andrew. And you said there's so many wonderful gems in what you said. I love you don't have to be the star of the gift. And I think, I've been guilty of that some years of trying to find the perfect gift that everyone will ooh and ah over. And I think this year in so many ways has been a year of reflection for many of us. We've all looked inside. We've all started to think about what really matters, what's really important. And I think you've given us a guideline to say, the holidays have become so commercial for so long. And maybe this is the year where we finally just say and you've made that so wonderfully clear in so many ways tonight of what's really important in finding other ways to reach out and help everyone. So I just thank you for that and reminding us all of that. And now I would love to open up for questions. So I think I can see you all at this point on the screen or put a message, but raise your hand and feel free to comment, ask Andrew a question.
Where's the hand on this?
Just raise your physical hand.
Yeah, you can either raise your physical hand or there's
we can see you. All right, Kelly, you have a question.
Well, first of all, thank you, Andrew. I never seem to miss an opportunity to hear you speak. It's so inspiring. And one of these days, I look forward to taking advantage of your wonderful skill set. But a couple of ideas that I got, is kind of a reverse Christmas or a reverse holiday, and the number of ways we can do that. The opportunity that this particular time is opportunities that it is presenting. But you also, in your one of your links, which offers the questionnaire, I think, is a wonderful gift to people, if not as a Hanukkah or a Christmas or other gift. What's the holiday?
Kwanzaa.
No.
They're all there.
Is a Boxing Day or New Year gift to people. It's free, it's thoughtful, and it is taking this wonderful opportunity that Cheryl and Ann have provided to the 10th power. So I just want to suggest that you can do that with this group and you can do it with your list and whatever, but it's free. And I think people would love that, particularly as everybody's feeling boxed in from cabin fever.
Yeah.
So I thank you. And thank you again for the wonderful mnemonic and graphic of the house. Something in, something out. That's just awesome.
Yeah.
Just don't let your husbands hear that because you'll get reminded of it daily.
Yeah, I know.
Every time I come in with any kind of shopping bag, it's like, oops, was that something new?
And a home for everything. Yeah. So anyway, thank you.
That's my pleasure.
Kay, were you going to say something? Kay Colson?
Well, I just had to laugh because when you talked about one place for each thing, And I wondered how many of you live in a 2-story house, because what I want is always on another floor. So whether it's my gardening supplies or my tools or my sweatshirt or whatever. So I wonder if you really have a trick for dealing with 2 floors. I found it virtually impossible.
Well, I would say, I mean, I've had 2-story homes before. You can certainly have a pair of reading glasses on the 2nd floor, and on the 1st floor, you can have a pair of scissors.
So glad. Good.
I mean, you can have duplicates of things. I would just encourage you that even though it feels a little robotic, I would not leave your reading glasses from your bedroom on your neck and go downstairs into the kitchen and then leave them on the kitchen counter. When you leave the bedroom, I would take the glasses off, put them back on the nightstand, and go downstairs. And then if you need the reading glasses, you've got them in the kitchen, or you've got them in the den, or wherever the other room is, so that you don't start dragging stuff all over the home. And you can certainly establish things. You can have multiples of things, but then the reading glasses for the bedroom are the reading glasses for the bedroom. The scissors in your office are the scissors in your office, not the scissors in your kitchen. And so you just want to be mindful that you don't just drag them around the house and leave them laying around and they don't make it back into their home. So that, I mean, that's my suggestion. I mean, that's what I did in my home. And, I mean, you could certainly, even to that point, right, if there's a closet on each floor, you could have a hoodie or a fleece or something so that you don't have to go upstairs to the bedroom or downstairs to the bedroom if you're cold. You just don't need 9 of them. You need 1 of them, right? And then that is, before you go upstairs, you take off the fleece, you hang it back up in the closet. You'll be cold in the hallway while you're climbing the stairs, but then you're going to go upstairs and get into bed. You're not going to freeze to death. And if you just build in that behavior, what you want will be where you want it. You won't create more clutter by dragging stuff all over the house and then just leaving it where you finished with it. It will stay in its sphere, and it works well. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. It'll totally work if you give yourself over to it.
I think what I learned the most is the word mindful. And as we get older, mindful becomes more tricky. So in fact, it helps if you're mindful in the beginning, because it works at the other end.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it is just catching yourself, right? I mean, it becomes a practice like anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time we learned to tie our shoes, we were not elegant or graceful about it. And now we don't even think about it. We just tie our shoes. It's the same thing. The first time you walk around the house, you might take off the fleece and just leave it on a kitchen table or on a dining room chair. And then when you see it, you'll go, that's the fleece from down the hall. I need to go put it back. And the more you do that, it's just a mechanical adjustment, right? That you just catch yourself. And the gap, I mean, again, this is what it's been proven true. The gap gets shorter and shorter of catching yourself. You're not like halfway down the block and in your car in the fleece. And you're like, oh crap, this was the house fleece, not the leave the house fleece. And then you start to recognize, okay, now I don't want to take it off the 2nd floor. And now I don't want to take it out of the bedroom. And the more you practice that, the simpler your life becomes. And that's the goal that's the mindfulness, is really to keep things simple and not to create more clutter. Understand that when we're getting organized, right, we're doing 2 things. We're freezing time so that we're not creating more clutter, and we're cleaning up historic accumulation. So the goal is, while we're drilling down to make old things go away and find their proper homes, we don't want to perpetuate new stuff. We want to be able to freeze it. New behavior is new behavior. Old behavior gets whittled away at. And eventually, when all the old behavior is whittled away and gone, we are organized and we can stay that way. So it isn't, to be clear, my goal is for people to get on the other side of this process. This doesn't need, putting things away is a lifelong process, but getting organized should not be, unless it really makes you happy. Like Monica on Friends, right? If it's that kind of a thing, go for it. But otherwise, it's a means to an end. It is not an activity in and of itself. And many of my peers, I think, sometimes like people to be stuck in that loop on that gerbil wheel of, oh, you must always be organizing. That's bullshit. I mean, it's a low value activity. It only provides a good foundation for everything else in our life. We really want to be doing the high value activities, not procrastinating on those and just keep putting stuff away and like, well, someday I'm going to improve my golf game. Well, okay, let's hope you can swing a club by the time you're ready to. Better to go golfing and spend 15 minutes organizing than 4 hours organizing and no time golfing.
And this is why we love you, Andrew. It's such great advice all the time. Susan Lombardi, you have a question.
Well, I kind of just want to express my feeling about the holidays.
Okay.
And one of the things that I really liked what you said, and I realized that it validated what my family is doing this year. And nobody, I have a child in Brooklyn, a child in Santa Monica, California. And what we do on a regular basis is cook a dinner together. So we all get on FaceTime and we cook together.
Nice.
That is the most beautiful thing. And now we've started to play a lot of games together. And not just them, but my sister and her family and other people. And what you said, I kind of said, wow, I think I'm doing this right. And my kids actually, I'm concerned about money this year because I lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic. And we're not broke or anything, but it's not like the other years when somebody said, I want a Badoop, and I went and got it.
Right.
So I'm having to be very careful about what I get. And my kids are like, Mom, send me grandma's, the recipe for grandma's fruitcake. Send me, and I've been just things like that. There's because I guess maybe, I don't know why, but there's a lot of food involved in my happiness. And so it was very nice to hear what you said about giving to others. And I ended up making so many fruitcakes, I'm going to give them to neighbors. And
I love fruitcakes, Susan Lombardi. I'm one of those people who loves them. You can send one to me.
I will. I totally will. And by the way, it's from my
Or I'll come out to you and pick it up.
That's the way. It's my Scottish grandmother's recipe.
Oh, wow.
And so it's not like store-bought fruitcake at all. It's, sort of rich and cinnamon, nutmeg, clove kind of flavors, and it's dark. So
sounds delicious.
It is. It is. So anyway, I haven't made it in years because it's incredibly fattening. But guess what? That's what's going on this year.
This is the year to do that stuff. I think that's great.
But I really appreciated your thoughts about giving to others and sharing yourself and sharing experiences, instead of stuff. It really resonated with me. And I didn't realize that's what we were kind of doing as a family till you mentioned it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's great. Who else? Who else would like to say something? Oh, Michelle.
Hi, thank you. This has been great. So, Andrew, I have a weird question. You ready?
Sure.
So I'm totally organized. Ann Akers can even attest to it. You come here and my house has nothing. I mean, it's just fine. It's great. I mean, and I do all of what you say just automatically because I just really love living in my home that pleases my eye, right? So everything, just comes in, comes out. I'm cool. Here's my problem. I'll tell you one thing that I did, but I have a problem with something else.
Sure.
I'm really good at putting what I don't need into my closets. And if you open my closets, I probably have 10 times in my closet what you have in your closet because it all goes into my closet because I don't want it out, right? So I actually got a neighbor to come over and I said, hi, I have clothes that, because my closet is so filled with clothes, I don't wear any of it. I wear like these few things and I don't
Mhm.
even see the other clothes. So will you help me? And I know maybe some of you know this, like give away, I'm not sure, keep. That's, I don't know if people have other systems, but that's what we did.
Sure.
And it was just, I mean, I've now worn things that I never wore before, and it's been wonderful. So here's my question, Andrew.
Yeah.
What can either who or what can I do to motivate me to get rid of the other stuff in my closet? Because there's no incentive. It's like all in the closet and I don't see it and I don't really need to clean it out.
Mhm.
And I know I should, but to your point, I'd rather go play or I'd rather spend time with my family on Zoom. So it's like, am I going to either clean that out or just spend time connecting? And Madeline knows I love connecting with her community. I'm delighted to be here. So I find myself never decluttering my closets because I have other priorities. So
Sure.
what would you suggest I do to get rid of that stuff?
So well, the first thing I would suggest is to just look at the mindset, and the construct of it being an either or. Because if you spent literally 15 minutes a day, which you could probably spare 15 minutes a day, and just set a timer for 15 minutes a day and open the closet, and whatever you do, you move one thing, you move 12 things, doesn't matter. And if you do that over a month or 2 months, you'll achieve your goals, and you won't miss the 15 minutes. It's not an all or nothing thing, like you would need to do it on a Saturday, right? You don't need to spend 8 hours in the closet because you have resistance to that. But chances are 15 minutes you could find in your day 4 or 5 times a week to just set a timer, an egg timer for 15 minutes. And then what it becomes is when the timer goes off, you need to leave the closet. You need to tell yourself, even if you're like, oh my God, Michelle, I'm on fire. Let's just keep going. You just say 15 minutes is all I committed to. Now I'm going to go do the things that I want, so that it never becomes something that can foster a resentment later of like, well, see, now it turned into that project that I didn't want it to be. If you keep it in the terms that you're comfortable with, it becomes easy to perpetuate, right? So that's my suggestion to you.
That's great.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Excellent.
And I just want to also have a shout out to Susan. I've heard about cooking with family, but when you said it again, it really struck a chord with me. You know, instead of just, I mean, I love this, and I've done, cocktail hours with friends, but I think cooking together will be the next step. And so
Yeah, we decide beforehand what we want to make, and we all shop for the ingredients. And then since she's on the West Coast, one of them's on the West Coast and we're on the East Coast, we figure out a time that works and we all make it. And then we eat together too.
It's awesome.
Are you making,
I love
just
that.
one last question, are you making the same thing or is everybody making something different?
No, we're all making the same dish.
Okay.
And so when you get to the part where, you're sauteing the mushrooms and the onions and the garlic, and you're like, okay, now what do we do? And somebody, whoever's closest to the recipe, and we try to use new recipes.
Oh, nice.
So
I love that.
Although we have done old family favorites as well.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Who else? Who else has a question? Maddie, unmute.
Andrew, I don't have a question, but I do have a testimonial for everything you're saying. My grandchildren were the ones that motivated me to leave Connecticut and move to Florida. I'll be in Delray, they're in Palm. And because of the experiences that I had with them in New York constantly, and those of you who are on Facebook see all of the things I do with them. And what drove me were the experiences that I wanted to be available to have these incredible experiences with Raya, who's 5, and Harris, who's 3, because they grow up so quickly. Now, in the course of doing that, I had to, for a variety of reasons, not only the temporary place I was coming to, but the speed at which I had to get rid of things, I basically had to give away event inside my home where friends came with their kids and took everything. And I was getting very nervous because I had a lot of sentimental stuff. I mean, a lot. And I knew I can only take 30 boxes for a variety of reasons. My whole life had to come into 30 boxes. But I took pictures of all of the sentimental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I prioritized what was absolutely necessary, what I knew, and I got it down to 30 boxes. And now I got the 30 boxes down to 20 as I move into my permanent place. And I realized life, and that's what my book is about, which is in process. Life is about experiences. I'm going to be 73 on Friday. And
oh, yay, Maddie. Happy birthday.
But I want to tell you something. If there's anything I've learned in my life for you younger folks here, none of it matters except the experiences which you're filled with gratitude and blessings for. And I want to thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Cheryl, for bringing Andrew on. And I mean, you're really a light and a man after, as I said in the chat, a man after my own heart. So thank you very much for all the validation.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Maddie. That was beautiful.
Diane wrote over here, the emotional is what keeps tripping me up. And Diane, do you want to talk a little bit more to that, please? You want to unmute yourself and can you talk a little bit about that?
And on the wrong. I need to start setting the timer more because I get to a certain point and then it just gets so overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
It's giving up. There's something about it that just eats at me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't find the trigger.
Yep.
So,
yeah. So what I mean, the timer is your ticket.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you come do the De-Stress Your Mess Challenge with us in January, because I mean, it's an amazing community. For those of you who use Facebook, we have a Facebook group. It's a private group. So whatever happens in the group stays in the group. It's not, you know, you have to ask for permission. I mean, there's not a big hurdle to get into the group, but if you're on Facebook, it's a great place to come if you're in the process of trying to declutter or want to be in a community. And so, Diane, what I would say is the timer is the thing. And remember that when you are sorting, all you're doing is sorting like with like. You don't have to make any other decisions about what stays or goes other than what is this like, so that when you come to the point of making the decision, it's now you have all 47 coffee mugs next to each other. It becomes much easier to decide the 20 coffee mugs you really want to keep, as opposed to each individual coffee mug. It's like, well, I remember where I got this and I love that mug. And then you're like, with this one, it's like, oh, well, I thought I could let go of that, but I love this mug and this is where it came from. One by one, it's very hard to make the decision. But when they are all together, it suddenly becomes much easier to say, of the 47 mugs, these are the 20 that I actually want to hold on to, and these 27 could easily go away and I will never miss them. And so, and that's to you specifically, but to everybody, right? Part of the process of getting organized is when I say like with like, it is exactly that. So all of the sweaters come together, all of the tools come together. That's when you discover, oh, I have 9 flathead screwdrivers. I really only need 2, right? And it becomes much easier to make the decisions because it isn't as fraught with feeling. You're not having to kill your little babies one by one and let them go. You're now able to look at all of them together and say, of all of them, these are the ones I like, these are the ones I don't like. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
All right. I think if there's one last question, I think we have time for that. And then I think we'll wrap this up. Does anyone else have one last thing? If not, well, Andrew, Amy. Okay. Yes. Unmute.
I do. And I really need a lot of help. Let's just start with that. That's the underlying premise here. And I worked with an organizer several years ago. And
I'm sorry.
What's that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. And I gave away some things that like 10 minutes later, I was like, oh, and I, and I ran to the Salvation Army and I couldn't get them back. And I was like distraught. Like I had these linen embroidered fancy, bathroom. I would never ever
towels or
know
something.
these words were years, but they were my mother's, and they were just interesting and like, what do I do with this? I have so much stuff.
Do you have a question for me?
That's the question. Like, it's really hard for me to let go of that stuff. And
Sure.
Having had that experience of, oh my God, I can't believe I gave away those gorgeous linen cloths of my mother's.
Right. Well, okay. So there's a couple of things here, Amy. First of all, the linens are not your mom. So you didn't give your mom away. You just gave away some linens. Even if she hand embroidered them, right? They're not her. And so part of that, and Diane, for everybody, right? That's the story that we attach to these objects are about us. Mm-hmm. The objects in and of themselves don't have a story. I mean, they, unless literally only an American Girl doll arrives with a story. Nothing else comes with a story. It's just a thing. So it's our story. And believe me, anybody who comes across those is just going to see them as this is an interesting thing or it's not an interesting thing, but they're not going to know your mother hand crocheted them, blah, 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 blah. It's all neutral to everybody other than us. So it's only our story. And we have control over the stories that we want to tell ourselves about these objects. And if it's a good story, then that's great. But if it's a bad story, I mean, there's many people who hold on to things from like broken relationships and crappy, divorces and things of like, well, this was the only nice piece of jewelry he gave me, so I'm going to keep it. But every time you look at it, you think of the son of a bitch that you were married to. And it's like, so really, why don't you go sell it at a pawn shop and buy yourself something that doesn't have a negative attachment to it? Like, why burden yourself with feeling crappy about something just because it had monetary value, or like you're gonna win the argument. The argument's he's not thinking about you, you're thinking about him and the shitty ring. So it's really important that we recognize that we generate the stories and we have complete control over if it's a good story or bad story, whether we want to keep telling it. So there's that. I'm sorry that when I work with clients, nothing leaves that they aren't done with. I don't ever say like, you have to get rid of this. That's ridiculous. I don't know whether that happened or not, but if you weren't ready, it would sit in a pile and I'd make you just interact with it until you were finished with it. And it would be your choice to let it go, so that there is no clutching afterwards. The other thing, what you can do to heal yourself from that, as you pointed out, Amy, it's unlikely that you were going to actually put those hand towels in your bathroom. They just were a pretty thing. So even though you have that sting, that's also a story. And you can look at that and say, what do I get out of feeling hurt or wronged or somehow like I did something premature? Is that something that comes up in your life other places where you are afraid to take chances or do things because you don't want to make a mistake? Is that a constant refrain in your life, that you're hesitant in other places in your life because I don't ever want to make a mistake? And it allows you to reinforce that mindset of better to be safe than sorry. And how many times have you not done something that you could have done except for the fear of making a mistake? So that's something that, and I'm not projecting that on you. I'm just positing it for something for you to investigate and see if it is a pattern or not. Does it have validity or doesn't it have validity? And this is over. So again, it's like, there's nothing to be done about it other than move on and make a different choice, as opposed to making no choice. Make a different choice so that when you do let something go in the future, it's something that you're really finished with, not something that you might be finished with or you think you should be finished with. Because again, it's your stuff. If you want to die surrounded by it, you can. You don't have to, but you could, right? there are no rules about it. So you get to determine how you want to walk through time and space with objects. You don't need to, there's no external arbiter or rule about you and your things. So you retain all agency in that relationship. You are not a victim of anything, and you're not obligated to keep things or let things go except when you're ready to. It's just what I would encourage you to do in my book, and I don't know if it's on my website, but certainly in my book, there's a set of core value exercises, and you don't have to do mine, but I would encourage you to do those, because with all of my private clients and my students, I encourage them to get really clear about what is important to you. And if it isn't necessarily the things, and the things are sitting physically, literally between you and what you want to be spending your time doing, you just have to have that, it's a form of a come to Jesus conversation with yourself about, like, I'm choosing to not do these other things because I'm stuck here. How important is staying stuck to me, or do I want to get to the other side of it? And again, there's no judgment. I will support you in doing whatever you want to do. I just want you to do it eyes open, fully conscious and clear and deliberate, so you have no regrets, right? That's the point, is to get to the point where when you make the choice, you're doing it wholeheartedly and completely, and there's nothing snagging you backwards, so that you have regret in the future, right? That as you walk forward, you're walking into the next part of your life clean, unencumbered, and empowered, rather than hobbled and somehow like you've made some sort of shitty compromise with yourself of like, well, this is what people tell me I should do, but it feels crappy. That's never a good choice for anybody. You should be able to celebrate, like, I had this process, I did this deep digging inside myself, and now I'm ready to do something else, and I'm really finished. There's nothing is unexamined. There's nothing about this that is going to come back like a burr and stick to me. I'm completely clean, and I'm committed to my new choice. I'm moving forward.
That's fabulous. So sadly, we have to wrap this up, which one means clearly, Andrew, we have to do another event with you. Yes. But also, everyone needs to know, first of all, go to Andrew's website. It's andrewmellen.com. You will find so much incredible information. Plus, you all need to start off your new year with his next challenge. I'm telling you, buy his book. It will so change your life and the way you think. You've just seen a little bit of Andrew tonight. And by the way, he's available for individual consultations. So imagine actually having Andrew there with you, whether it's virtually or in person, walking you through all of this. It's such, I don't even know how to describe Andrew, because organizer is, we call him an organizer, but that is so not the word. You're a motivator, you're a healer, you're a philosopher. You make us think in different ways. Every time I hear you talk, Andrew, I just feel different and changed. I can't thank you enough for being with us tonight. And the way that we have really rethought the holidays this year, and you've given us all a lens for seeing this in such a different and better light. I mean, I think anyone who was feeling a little sad about the holidays should take away what Andrew said and say, this is a time for me to give back, to make a difference, to really think about what matters. So on behalf of all of us, I thank you. We love you. I wish you all a happy holidays.
Yes.
And Andrew, if you have any closing remarks, please share them now.
Thank you for all your lovely comments, and it's lovely being with all of you. I wish you all merry, happy holidays. Enjoy each other. Be in the moment. This is it. This is all we get, right? This is not a dress rehearsal. This is our lives. So I don't want anybody to get to the end of the experience and want a do-over. That it's not going to happen, right? I mean, it shouldn't be like the end of Citizen Kane, where you're still thinking about the sled. You should we should have our best experiences now while we are actually here and present. So thank you for, it's always an honor and a privilege to be not only with, anybody, but with you tomatoes specifically. And thank you. Let's have a wonderful end of 2020 and let's have a kick-ass 2021, right?
Yes.
Hear you. I will toast to that. So thank you all.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you,
great.
Andrew.